Hello everyone, that Manga Kid here to give my review of Anti-Romance by Shoko Hidaka. This is a BL series, 2 volumes long, put out by 7 Seas. I have a few titles by Shoko Hidaka actually, and one of the reasons I picked this up is because, the cover of volume 1 really captured my interest. I think it's really slick looking, but also because I like Shoko Hidaka, I have quite a few of her. I have a few one-shots by her. There might be a series of like two or three volumes or something I own by her, but I can't remember specifically. All I know is I recognized the name and knew that I owned some other stuff and wanted to pick this one up. I didn't realize it was only going to be 2 volumes, honestly. So when I picked up volume 2, I was surprised that it was the end. The other nice thing about these volumes is they have these color art book type things at the back of them. I'm assuming that those were like extras with the Japanese volumes, but then obviously in the English editions, 7 Seas built in those little art books into the volumes, which I really appreciate, because it is really nice artwork. At the end, nice full color photos and everything in the back. So that's a nice touch, and I appreciate that because we don't normally get a lot of those type of extra things that come with the Japanese volumes, particularly for like BL and shoujo stuff. Typically that stuff is looked over or overlooked. So anyway, nice volumes. I definitely recommend picking it up. This is a really interesting series for sure. I think that it's not very happy-go-lucky in that sense. It really does delve into the topic of like self-discovery and everything. So these 2 young men have lived together for 6 years. They've known each other since they were kids. They're best friends, and they're both kind of established in their careers, and they just sort of have been going about their life day to day for a long time together. And they're not dating. They are friends, but there are underlying feelings there, and there's this kind of like tension about where this relationship is or is not going. One of the characters in particular is aware of his feelings for his friend and is at the point where like they're in their mid-20s and he is ready to be in a relationship with this person that he loves so much, but is unsure of how to kind of bring that up and is unsure how to go about navigating the consequences of bringing that up. So I really appreciated kind of the discussion that this series brought up, because I think this does, I've seen it happen, not to this extent of like, oh, they've lived together for years and years and years, but I've had friends who, did fall for a friend of theirs, and then how do you navigate that changing of dynamic, and how do you navigate particularly when the other person isn't interested in you in that way, or maybe they are, but they don't know how to come to terms with those feelings. And so this is a story about these 2 really, really good friends who could be more than that, but are not ready to deal with what that means. And so there's a lot of drama. There's a lot of sadness in this, because you're watching these 2 people who, from an outside perspective, you go, well, of course you should be together. You really enjoy each other's company. You clearly are attracted to each other, but at the end of the day, they need to both be ready to take that step. And I think ignorance is a very strong state to live in. And it is interesting the different way that people's minds work, in that one of these men is like, at this point, I'm so attracted to this guy, I can't really keep it a secret anymore, and we live together, and I don't know how to navigate living with this person anymore when I'm in this much pain, because I can't act on this attraction. And the other person living so starkly in his ignorance of his own feelings and the feelings of his friend, to just continue to be content to continue to pretend that everything's fine, when clearly it is not. So yeah, I really thought that this was from the first volume, I was so hooked on these two characters and their dynamic and their obvious attraction to each other, but this, fear and trepidation around taking that relationship further. Yeah, I think this was really well done. I think the artwork is stunning. I really like the character designs. I love Shoko Hidaka's artwork. I always have. So it's not shocking to me that this was really good. But if you've not read any of her works, or if this has kind of flown under your radar, I do definitely recommend picking it up. I think that it's, like I said, a really nice release, but also I found it to be a really compelling story. And I think it would benefit from reading like all together, because I read volume 1 when it came out, and then there was a huge gap between volume 2 coming out, and the tonal shift between the two volumes is a bit jarring if you didn't read them like back to back. So I do look forward to, in the future, reading the series again, but all in one go, because it seems more of like a film. Like this could be a movie. And so when I read it completely split up with, like, I think it was about a year at least in between, maybe more than that, I was like, oh, I can't wait to revisit these characters. And then I kind of forgot where volume 1 left off. And when I started volume 2, I was like, oh, this is depressing. But I think if it was read all in one go, it would seem the flow would go better. So I think now that both volumes are out, it's a great time to pick it up, great time to read it. I highly recommend it. This will be one I'll revisit often for sure. The storytelling was I really, really enjoyed it, and the artwork is great. There's a little bit of explicit content in it, but again, these are adults, so that was what I was hoping and expecting from the series, was that there would be some explicit content in it, rather than just like, and they held hands, the end. So I think it made it more realistic. I felt like it really, really, the story was just well told. So I do recommend this one for sure. If you have read this, love to hear your thoughts on it. If you have any recommendations of series similar to this, would also love to hear those. But anyway, thank you for watching.